Excuse me while I get my technology together. Can you all hear me fine? All right. Good morning. A little bit louder. Good morning. Good morning. Hey, you guys should have more energy than I have. I'm old. You guys are young. But thank you very much for coming this morning. Today I would like to talk to you about our topic, which is diverse careers, diverse people, and particularly how it relates to STEM. So before I actually get into all that, I wanted to introduce myself a little bit. I think the introduction was pretty much covered everything that there was to know about me, but a couple other things that are interesting, just really highlighting that whole applied arts thing, is that I like to draw. I wanted to be a comic book artist, actually, when I was your age. And because I had so much love for math and science, I decided to just go ahead and pursue science because, honestly, better chance of making more money in STEM than drawing comic books, unfortunately. This is the team I actually coached last year in football, and I also love to cook. As you probably could tell, I like to eat too. And the cooking is really fascinating because how many of you guys ever watched Food Network and watched a show called Good Eats? Yeah, all that science and everything that Alton Brown talks about, really, it always got my brain going. So I really got into cooking, and it was really interesting. What the intro talked about was the space shuttle and Aurora. And the reason I highlight those two things is they're very extreme. One is space shuttle, aerospace, aircraft, and the other one is semiconductors. And they're like two incredibly different fields. So when you talk about diverse careers, this is just one person alone who's already had careers going opposite ends of the spectrum, but still within the STEM sphere of things. So before we go forward, I just want to play a little scenario out. This table right here, you, 1, 2, 3, 4, about 7 of you. Okay, I'm going to charge the 7 of you with developing all the technology, all the solutions, all the cures for everybody in this room. You can't leverage their talents, their skills, their perspective, anything. Only you 7 can meet the needs of all like 80 people in this room right now. Are you guys confident that you guys can do that? Huh? No, okay. Well, one of you was confident, the rest of you are kind of, I don't know. Would you like to have their support? I mean, if it was, so assume this is the world, there's no one else here. Would you like to have their support if you had to develop all those different technology solutions? That's what we're getting to when we talk about diversity, really. Is that the situation that we have now for diversity in regards to STEM is that we have a small portion of our population, representative-wise, trying to actually make the world a better place for a world that's completely different than just the population that's mainly developing those solutions and those technologies. So before we went into the whole diversity in STEM, I kind of wanted to go over STEM benefits. Why are we pursuing STEM? You all are in a STEM program, STEM-related program, so no doubt you guys already know the benefits or have passion for it or interest, but just highlight a few things. But STEM gives you the ability to relate. I mean, how many of you guys think of one thing and then you say, oh, that's connected to this via that way? And that's what STEM does, right? It gives you the ability to see the connection in your world. And because you see the connection in your world, you see the connection in other people's worlds. And that's how you develop solutions. That's how we solve problems. That's how we do it at Intel, right? It's, oh, I have this problem. Oh, so-and-so over there has that problem. And I see how those two things are connected. And I have this solution, and they have this problem B that's different from problem A. But if I change my solution A, I can create solution C for that person. That's what STEM people can do. And it's that connected thinking that helps you guys in the future as you go forward in your STEM careers, make the world a better place. And that's whether you're in a lab, in the field, in the office. That's where I spend all my time, in the office, making PowerPoint presentations, as you can see. And even the volunteer activities. And during the intro, it was talked about mentoring and planning services, but a lot of your ability to come up with solutions and solve problems, make the world a better place, help other people, aren't just about the math and the science and the numbers. A lot of it is your altruism, your ability to think through things. That's what's going to help other people, and STEM gives you that ability to do just that. So the value of STEM fields, without going through the whole slide here, is that STEM fields only make up about 4% of the total workforce. But you guys are going to be the people who create jobs for the other 96%. That's how powerful STEM is, right? You're actually creating new opportunities. You're creating new fields. New passions arise. So it's for this reason that STEM is just incredibly vital. And it's incredibly vital that we make sure that STEM represents everybody and that everybody gets involved, because we want that same opportunity, that same passion, that same ability to create jobs, to create possibilities and opportunities to be extended to everybody. And in fact, if you think about the future of STEM, this is more along the lines where you guys get to play in these roles. I won't, because I'll be too old and I won't want to learn anything else. I'm done. But matter programming, the ability to actually use computer systems to program how materials will be bound together. This means you can actually create new materials, stronger materials, materials with different properties. You know, things are very unique. Neuromarketing, this was actually kind of scary. So it's the second one actually. But neuromarketing is the ability to map people's brain patterns and the way they think and behave, so you can really market the things that they want, right? Whatever products they want. If you think about it, it's kind of like taking what Facebook does to you guys now, or all the data mining that we do now, and just amping it up and actually, you know, jacking into your brain and finding out what it is you look like. Of course, pre-crime analysts, I'm sure you all have seen Minority Report, right, before? So using location, data, historical information, monitoring people's biometrics to be able to determine when, if, how a crime is going to happen. That was a little touchy. We're pretty much going to be charging people, or accusing, or whatever the case may be, people of crimes before they actually happen. So that's going to be interesting to see what legal paths we take for that. And then finally, smart grid game mechanics. This is just a way of getting people to use power in ways that benefit the power suppliers by gamifying or using gamification, such that you'll not want to play that game at 7 o'clock because that's when everybody else is home watching prime time television. Maybe it's better if you played it at 11 o'clock, and that works better for, say, PGE, for example. So we talked a bit about why STEM is important, the value it adds, but now we want to talk a little bit about the actual diversity challenges that are within STEM. So the first one is that STEM is largely unchanged since 2000. Diversity in STEM is largely unchanged since 2000, according to Change the Equation in US News. So this means back in 2000, when we started launching a lot of initiatives to get people involved in STEM, and diversity in this case particularly focuses on females and underrepresented minorities. Nothing really changed between 2000 and 2014. A little disappointing, obviously, when you've got a lot of these programs going on. But the thing is that a lot of these students who are targeted aren't necessarily being properly enabled to pursue STEM. So we're missing the opportunity to get more people involved in STEM so we can, again, make the world a better place or a cooler place or where that motivates you. In fact, Intel had an event several years back, and at that event they asked a group of people who were underrepresented minorities, who were females, you know, what's the number one word that you associate with a STEM field? Anybody guess what that word was? Shout it out.
Computers?
Not computers. Well, we'll say what feeling they have in regards to STEM. How many of you find STEM easy? You're very gifted if you do. Do you think the majority of people find it easy? Of course not. The majority of people don't. Most people find it difficult. And a lot of the time that difficulty isn't necessarily a matter of intellect. I mean, believe it or not, STEM, the challenge isn't so much being smart, it's being persistent, right? I myself am not that smart. If I have a PhD, it's only because I just stayed in school and got through. But the thing is that, yeah, the word that they used was difficult. And that difficulty comes because they don't have the positive reinforcement necessary to make it through STEM fields or to understand STEM or how it applies. And for this reason, the results as far as changing STEM, or as getting the diversity in STEM, didn't improve the way we wanted them to. The reason I bring this up is because it's not just important from a social standpoint. It's important to companies. Intel, for example, some of you guys may have been paying attention to the news. Our CEO, Brian Krzanich, made a big declaration about diversity in the workforce. The thing is that for a company like Intel, we want to make sure that the solutions we provide are representative of the entire market that we serve, right? And if we don't have that kind of representation, we're going to be in trouble. So are a lot of companies, right? Because you're going to miss out on a lot of money. So it really does come down to dollars. So Intel's goal is to reach full representation by 2020. And what full representation means is that in the US, there's a certain amount of the population that would be eligible for a particular job field or title or classification. In this example, we'll say senior technical women. So in the US, there are 17.2, is that number up there? Yes. 17.2% of the workforce is eligible to be a senior technical female. But at Intel, that number is only 9.8% of our workforce is a senior technical female. So even Intel sees, wow, we've got to nearly double this number in the next 5 years. So the reason I also bring this up too is that we want to start with you guys. This is where diversity really makes us push. Too many times we're trying to push it as something that's just an educational thing, or we're trying to push it as something that's just a hire more people into your company. But really, the push for diversity needs to come from you all. Because if we approach you all as youth, you're going to see that you play a major role here. Because by the time you all graduate from college, you're going to be seeing a much more diverse workforce, at least one that's more diverse than it is currently. Additionally, if you're going to be entering a STEM workforce anytime soon, maybe within the next 5 years directly out of high school, that could be maybe because you're involved in a technical field like engineering for sound design or something of that nature, then you're going to be part of that initiative to actually increase the diversity in STEM in the workforce. So either way, you guys need to be empowered or be aware of the challenges that we have for diversity in STEM and why it's important, because you guys are going to be the heralds. You're going to be the harbingers of change, more so than a lot of us who are currently in it, because we're in it and then we're going to be out. But you guys are coming into it, and you're going to be the ones able to make the true change. So the other thing I want to touch on, by the way, there are tons of reasons why diversity in STEM is a challenge. I want to touch on the ones I feel that are more relevant to you all. But the other thing is that it's an issue of identity. And when I talk about identity, I don't just necessarily mean racial, and I don't necessarily mean just gender. There are ones of sexual orientation, maybe one aligned to your creed or your religion or something of that nature. The examples I use are mainly tuned towards gender and race because those are the easiest to get those numbers. But identity is something that's very complex for a lot of people. As I'm sure you all are learning because you're growing up. But just in this example here, we have diverse students often seeing themselves in the authority figures. And I have an example of that later. But people who influence your lives, whether they be teachers, whether they be your parents, someone you just really trust and respect. But these people play a key role in how you see yourself developing. And for example, if we take the number of minority teachers and administrators in Oregon, you have about 30% of your K through 12 students being of an underrepresented group. But then you have about 90% of your teachers and administrators being of non-underrepresented group backgrounds or non-diverse backgrounds. So you see there's a discrepancy there. You know, okay, these people who are My authority figures aren't necessarily the people who necessarily I would identify with. But if you take that a step further and think about it in terms of STEM, 10% of STEM professionals are underrepresented minorities. And then only 1 out of those 10 is a woman. So you see the challenge of identifying yourself as a STEM professional if you happen to be in one of these underrepresented groups. And then you start to think, okay, what can we do about it, right? Let's stop talking about the problem. So really quickly, I wanted to highlight something, and it's in regards to your identity, your background, who it is that influences you. So I fortunately was raised in a highly integrated, highly scientifically oriented environment, being an Air Force brat. My dad was in the Air Force, as you see this handsome gentleman right here. He would often tell me a lot of stories. And one of those stories was of the SR-71 Blackbird, which was this 1960s design spy plane. Flew most of its missions in the 1980s and the 1990s as well. But it was just legendary for its ability to take these photos over enemy territory, fly at very high altitudes at high speeds. When it would land, it would actually be 7 inches longer because it got so hot. So you couldn't touch it when it landed, right? The suits that the pilots wore were more like spacesuits and less like pilot suits. There's even talk, and I'd say this is talk because I haven't really confirmed it, but the plane doesn't have armaments like bullets because it goes too fast to have bullets on it, right? It's a basic maneuver. If you shot a surface-to-air missile at it, just go faster. That's how awesome this plane was. So my dad would always tell me about this plane. And then, of course, this picture down here is just me kind of a geek moment here because the Evergreen Air and Space Museum actually has an SR-71 Blackbird. So if you guys have ever been there, it's a pretty cool plane to go put your hand on if they let you do it. The other influence, though, the really major influence, was that my dad was stationed at Patrick Air Force Base, which happens to be outside of Cape Canaveral. That is where I got exposed to the space shuttle. And I was just a toddler, so I really don't remember any of the launches. But what was key is that my dad kept the space shuttle in my life all the way through high school. So this poster here was something he got when he transferred from Patrick to England. We were stationed in England at one point. And he gave me this poster, and this poster has been above my bed since I was in high school. Well, it's technically not over my bed now. It's somewhere else now, it's just in my office. But basically, I've had this poster in my possession since then. And as the intro said, I went on to work for the space shuttle. In fact, I had the space shuttle in my high school ring, but it was something I wanted to do. And what I wanted to point out with this is that the influences you have in life, particularly in regards to STEM, really, really galvanize who it is you pursue, who it is that you are and what you choose to pursue. And what I really want to highlight is that I'm one of those products or those individuals who had the blessing of having STEM kind of in my life and having the positive reinforcement necessary to ensure that I had a seat at the table when it came to STEM talk. So why is diversity in STEM important at all, right? Well, first, diversity is critical to excellence. So often we view scientific advancement as someone invented something and it got better. But the majority of scientific advancement or progress is made by teams of people. All of you all sitting at tables working together. Like I was pointing out earlier, not just these 7 people trying to design solutions and solve problems for everybody. It's about these 7 people working with those 7 people. These 8-ish people. The entire 80 counts that we have in this room. That's actually what creates scientific advancement. That's what drives progress. The phone you're talking on didn't come about because someone just invented something. There was certainly someone was smart enough to come up with something, but it took a team of people to make that something be of value to you. So that's why diversity is really important. And if we don't have a diverse representation on our teams, we're not identifying all the right challenges. We're not providing all the right solutions. We're not able to see all the potential things that could be done. We're only seeing a fraction of it. Also, a lack of diversity is a loss of talent. So that means that someone who is dissuaded from a STEM pursuit may actually go into a field where they're adding a lot less value. For example, if someone was really good at math and they found themselves doing, I don't know, we'll say basket weaving, I don't know. But if they were doing basket weaving, they really didn't like it, but it was something that paid the bills, that would mean that they're not fulfilling themselves. This also means that they're not adding value to the world that they could be adding. You know, they could be doing something that is actually a benefit to you. There's another reason why diversity is important. Last but not least, long-term economic growth and global competitiveness. This one really comes down to the fact that the U.S. needs youth, right? It needs its youth to be STEM-focused. It needs its youth to be not only STEM-focused, but driving innovations that are going to keep the U.S. ahead or catch up, depending on how you look at it, with this technological edge, right? It's a matter of actual economic growth. And the thing is that if we are missing a significant portion of our representation in our melting pot that's up in the U.S. here, then that's a fraction of the talent that we have available to actually solve these problems, keep our edge, and do great things, and remain a great nation. So we're coming up towards the end here, but one thing I wanted to highlight here is that what can we do to actually drive diversity in STEM? And again, there are a million things we could do. But I wanted to focus it on what I feel you all can do at this point in your lives going forward to actually drive that diversity. And that is of alliances. So some of you may be thinking, okay, I'm not part of a traditionally underrepresented group or something of that nature. What role can I serve? Why should I care? You know, or not necessarily why should I care, but what can I do and how can I most effectively help somebody else? And we want you to think that because, to be honest, you know, not doing anything about diversity in STEM, but being a STEM professional or future STEM professional is kind of like watching a car accident and then not doing anything about it. You see it as something that needs to be changed. And so that is why I advocate be an ally for diversity, because we need everybody at the table. Diversity in STEM is not about underrepresented groups actually getting the attention. It's about everybody getting the attention, everybody working together. So everybody needs to be a part of this effort. But here are some reasons. One, STEM fields are expected to become increasingly diverse. We kind of touched on this before, but if it's going to be increasingly diverse, yeah, you guys should already be prepared to start taking advantage of how am I going to work with different people. You know, another one is that groups are frequently isolated from each other. When you isolate a group, that group doesn't feel like you're appealing to their needs. And if you're not appealing to those needs, that's how we start to lose people that we could rely on the talents and skills of. So that's another reason to become an ally. And what are some of the roles? One, train others to be allies. What you're going to learn here today when you hear about these different careers that you could possibly be in, and then the different people who are in those careers, that gives you awareness that you can provide to other people. Additionally, working to change the system. I think I touched on this a bit earlier, but like I said, it's going to start with you guys. We're in STEM, I'm in STEM, and I'm going to be on my way out in the next 30, 40, X number of years. But you guys are coming into it, so you guys are really the ones empowered to drive all these changes. And then finally, this is a big one, network with different people in different groups. And that's something that's it's an objective of today, is it not? That you guys are going to network with industry professionals who are in different fields and may come from different backgrounds. But continue to do that as you go forward in life, because that's what's going to help create this alliance, this constant team atmosphere, and we're going to be interlinked and interconnected, integrated in such a way that we're going to find those solutions, do great things. So some parting thoughts here. One, blaze the trail. Like I've said, increase diversity in the STEM profession. Champion that inclusion of underrepresented groups. Help them become leaders, all right? key point, more women, more people of color, more perspectives, more people with different orientations. That's how you get more challenges recognized, and then you get those solutions created, and that's how you make the world a better place. That's all what it comes down to. And remember, as STEM-interested professionals, future professionals, you guys are going to be creating jobs for 96% of everybody else. That means that you guys are going to be the ones passing on a legacy, for these other young people who are going to be considering, what is it I'm going to do with my life? And because of the efforts that you all made to include everybody going forward in STEM, they're going to have that much more opportunity and that much more possibility laid out for them. Thank you very much.